Link's Awakening was originally released back in 1993, 2 months before my apparent birth, on the original Game Boy, which is when colour didn't actually exist back in those days. It then subsequently got a release in colour on the Game Boy Color back in 1998. It's also secretly one of the best Legend of Zelda games that very few people seem to know about. Why do I mention all of this? Because it's just been re-released on the Nintendo Switch. It's literally why you're here. It's the name of the video. What? Look at this little sassy boy. Now, I've only known Link for but a few moments, but if anything were to happen to him, I would immediately kill everyone in this room, starting with myself. Which speaks volumes as to how the aesthetic of this game can immediately enrapture you to its charm. When I first opened Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, I was in a terrible mood from a horrible day of existing. But immediately my mood brightened from just how charming this game world is. Okay, maybe not that bit. But look at it. Simply look at it all. How can you not immediately fall in love with this glazed pottery aesthetic that everything has? Everyone seems so emotive despite their simple designs, and it all feels like a diorama that you're peeking into like some kind of benevolent giant. Or malevolent. Oh god, the chickens! But it is simple enough to point and look and admire at how nice everything looks. I know I've already said this, but look at it. But apart from that, it's your classic Legend of Zelda experience. You've got your young sassy looking boy, you've got your sword, you've got your shield, and you've got your... Exactly. And then you've also got your quest to collect the 8 MacGuffins to save the land from the encroaching threat of monsters. In your epic adventure, you'll be tasked with collecting the 8 instruments of the sirens in order to awaken, like the name of the game, the windfish who sleeps atop the mountain on the island of Koholint in a big egg. However, this isn't as simple as popping down to your local music store. I don't think Koholint Island has one. And instead, you'll find yourself having to delve deep into dark, mysterious dungeons and ultimately defeat the nightmares that are protecting each instrument. And even that isn't as simple as it sounds, as there's a variety of puzzles and problems you'll need to solve to even get to these dungeons, such as finding their hidden keys or trying to make it through the death maze that precedes it. This can normally involve soliciting the aid of the local townsfolk in one way or another. Oh god, moblins have taken Bow Wow? We've got to search for clues. Marin, now is not the time for this weirdly eerie and melancholic ballad of the windfish that somehow resonates with my very soul and brings me to such a state of tranquility that for once I finally feel at peace with my inner demons. Because Bow Wow's been stolen. But it's these little side events that add so much joy and depth to the game, as you find yourself having to take a dog for a walk in order to continue your quest, or some other interaction with a unique individual. Oh god, maybe Bow Wow should have been kept in prison. But you see, this is where Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening manages to have the same great sense of exploration that you'll be so familiar with from if you've ever played another Legend of Zelda game. Because so much of it is about squirreling away down some weird, obscure, new avenue that may or may not actually be vital to your quest, but is somehow really fun. Every time you get a brand new item, you may finally decide to explore a little bit more and find out what's actually behind this bombable wall, or what's down this other location that you can now access thanks to a new item. Sure, you could always progress the story. However, you can always just get very easily distracted trying to find yet another heart piece, yet another collectible shell, or something else, which will probably turn out to actually be vital to your quest. But you don't know that until much later and you're like, oh sweet, I'm glad I explored earlier. Okay, the game isn't exactly difficult. The combat is understandably simple and the puzzles aren't exactly complex. But there's a wonderful satisfaction from just working your way through each dungeon and solving the various puzzles. Sure, it mostly involves killing all the monsters or pushing a block in the right direction, but then working out where to go with the key you get is quite fun, and trying to find that one bit of the dungeon that you've yet to explore becomes vital to the experience. Also, Link's Awakening manages to blend side-scrolling elements into the game so masterfully with each underground chunk, and it's a bit of a shame that these only exist in such a limited number. You know the drill with Legend of Zelda games and their dungeons. Bumble around coming across countless dead ends until you finally find the new item that will allow you to continue your quest, and those dead ends dissolve into open ends. But it's a loop that works and is deliciously satisfying, and the whole game is undeniably pleasant that you can just feel the smile spread across your insides in a way that isn't probably deadly. This version of Link's Awakening is the perfect embodiment of a nostalgia-driven re-release, because the gameplay and the game elements resonate so deeply within inside you of those sort of classic Zelda games. The original Link's Awakening, or if you didn't even play that, Link to the Past, or Oracle of Seasons, or Oracle of Time, they just take you back to this simpler time. But it adds enough newness, such as like Dampy's little grave dungeons, to add a sense of freshness and at least have something new to experience. Not to mention the aesthetic that it presents itself in is just so delightful and refreshing that it entirely feels like an inherently new experience while still harkening back to fond memories. And the aesthetic itself is very reminiscent of Rosie and Jim, Bill and Ben the Flower Pot Men, The Herbs, programs you may have watched as a child growing up, but add layers upon layers to this nostalgia-driven experience that just makes you feel really gooey inside and kind of complacent and warm and happy. It's weird, and it's just somehow still looking so fresh and so new. It's incredible. All of this builds into this wonderful, melancholic reminiscence that is so beautifully juxtaposed by the bright colours of the world and characters and the joyful sensation of the entire thing. And when you take into account the story itself of Link's Awakening, is this incredibly bittersweet experience. It just all adds up with everything that I've been rambling about at the end here to be this perfect embodiment of the bittersweet. It's why Link's Awakening was possibly the perfect game to recreate in this way, because of everything that it stands for and everything that it all combines into. Because you see, whilst you're all sat there, rapidly aging, waiting for the end to come, Link's Awakening on the Switch will just be the perfect accompaniment to that experience. It's also really probably good for like a young audience game as like an introduction thing, due to its like delightful colours and joyful simplicity and air that it has going for it. But I wouldn't be able to say for certain because I'm not a child anymore. If anything, I've made that very much apparent. Hello, and thank you for watching my video. I realise it got quite up my own arse there and very existential, but aging isn't fun. But Link's Awakening is very much fun, and also like has a lot to say, I feel like, about sort of the melancholic feelings that you might be feeling at the existential dread that eventually you will age and grow old and die and your youth is behind you. Oh God. Speaking of things that are behind me in the past, videos I have once made, such as this one, which is about something, which I've already forgotten, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. This one down here will probably be about a board game of some description. And then if you click on my face, there'll be a face orb, which allows you to subscribe. Thank you and goodbye.